Good morning, everybody. Quite a challenging workshop in as far as this is quite practical. So what we're going to try and talk about, what we're going to talk about is now where are the opportunities to pivot and adapt in our business and our roles. And we're going to talk about opportunities that we see. We're going to get some feedback based upon the number of participants about what's going on. We're going to talk about how competitors are reacting and how you might want to respond to that. We've got an exercise around that. We're also going to talk about how you might adapt your services and your products. And then we're going to talk about 5 key questions. And then we're going to talk about where you need to pivot and then look at some of the online services that we can now provide. So the webinars that we're running, normally we'd be at the 3-hour face-to-face every 3 months where we get a chance to network. We're using the webinar format for at least the next couple of months until such time as we believe it's safe to get us all back together again. But as a result of where COVID's been, we're actually now doing more webinars anyway. So that's been a natural way of which we've progressed through the process. We're also noticing that people are a bit Zoom meeting tired already, and clients are wanting to come into the office and actually sit down and talk to people and talk through their issues. So let's just talk about where we are in the marketplace and what we see is going on and the stage that we think people are at. I think both with the restrictions being lifted now, what we're starting to find is businesses are now really wanting to move and change. Some, when we look at where business has been, for them it's getting back into the swing, and for others, business has been going along okay, but nobody's really pushing it because they don't want to impede on people's private space and they're not trying to invite them into their businesses as much. And yet for other businesses in our client range base where it's been an absolute boom time, they didn't actually get affected negatively at all. So now that restrictions are coming off, businesses and leaders are really trying and figure out where to go to next. We've put up this map we've put together based around how we see the journey of a leader. We certainly think that we're now past the survive stage, although businesses that have now been allowed to restart their business because of the restrictions being lifted are probably still back at the survive stage. They're trying to win back their customers, they're trying to get things going. But most of our clients have done their disaster plans that we've been working with them on. They've been working on a 30-day, 1-page plan, figuring out what they need to do, and then that's starting to adapt. And now at the moment, virtually a 30-day plan's too long. Changes are happening with the restrictions changing, people being allowed to congregate more places and more of them. So 50 people in an area of a pub now, and if you've got 5 different areas, then you've got effectively 250 people in your location. They've all got to still do the social distancing. They've all still got to sign in, but things are happening and changing, and those rules may change again next week. So for some who are restarting their businesses and they've only just started in the last week or two, they're definitely still in the survive. But there are lots of businesses who we believe are in the actual pivot and adapt stage. So they've actually been able to keep their businesses going. And my observation is anybody that kept their business open through the restriction time, and many businesses were classed as essential services, particularly in our environment, they've been able to retain customers. And I think the point we made in our last month's presentation was that ownership of customers has become a really, really key element. And those businesses that have been closed, who have spent a lot of time in the social media environment, have actually been able to maintain their contact, and they've responded quicker as the restrictions have been lifted. But if you've been open the whole time, you've actually been able to take on the customers that weren't being serviced. And it's really quite interesting. Some of the small boutiques in Dubbo have done really, really well at the expense of some of the bigger players who decided to close. Not the case for everybody, but that's certainly been where it is. So what we would recommend if you're in the pivot and adapt stage now is to go back and look at your pivot strategies that you've already adopted and see whether they need to stay in your new service delivery model. So you need to review your vision and make sure that the changes that you see with the new products that you may have developed because of COVID-19, whether they're really part of your business or now you have to adapt them again. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Also review the innovation that you have put in your business and make sure that you, if you haven't adopted stuff, and the stats are 50% of Australian small businesses don't have websites, for example. So it was unrealistic when COVID-19 came out to expect that everybody would jump in and form a website, do social media. But now time has progressed. Maybe now is the time when you've actually got the opportunity to start implementing that to actually change your way you're going to adopt new innovation in your business. You also need to look at your capacity and resources. It's very clear for some businesses in my client base that there have been some staff members who have been on the journey and there are some staff members who haven't been. And so some of those people, we've been able to look at the training they need, and others, unfortunately, we're looking at how we might exit them from the business, or their roles are going to change because they haven't been able to be part of what's needed to serve customers during these periods of restriction. So strategic planning is really critical, and particularly thinking about where you see opportunities going forward. And hopefully today's webinar will help you look at some of at least two techniques that are really helpful, I think, in figuring out where you might sit in the future. The other key point is that at this stage, scenario planning is still really important. I think for some people, they've said, okay, business is going really, really well, I don't need to do any more. The question is, what extra can they do to actually push their business to the next level? Some businesses are now actually considering businesses opening up all over the place. We should expect a fall off of business. We've been able to ride the curve and been able to take advantage of other businesses no longer competing with us, but we can't expect this to go on for much longer. So they're expecting up to a 20% reduction in performance over the coming months. Certainly, I know some people in the agricultural industry, now that sowing is just about finished, are expecting to see it go quiet for the next 3 or 4 months as people prepare for harvest, hoping that they get follow-up rains. But they had a real kick because people needed to get crop in the ground. So there's been quite a lot of change going on. And now we still need to go back and keep thinking about the different types of scenarios that we might have that are relevant for our business. So where are the opportunities for you to pivot in your business? What we're finding is lots of people through this period, if their businesses have stopped or had to close, have had time to come up with new ideas, think about or hypothesize what they're going to do some design thinking, then experiment and actually have released product to the market. So a classic I heard yesterday was a guy, he teaches people how to design pottery and ceramics. So it was all face-to-face learning. He would provide materials and people would come to class. Due to COVID-19 and not being able to see anybody, what he decided to do was move his business completely online. And then he realised that he had to put together product kits for his customers. As a result, he actually made a pack up with clay, with tools and equipment, and then produced a series of videos. As a result of that, he's ended up selling 3,000 kits to businesses and people who were staying at home who wanted to get into ceramics and pottery. Couldn't have believed that was going to happen. Didn't understand the market was going to be that big. His business has grown much bigger than he had ever thought. He's now recorded lessons, but he's now at the stage, because restrictions are coming off, where he wants to get back in and start running classes again. So he's now having to think about how he's going to pivot his model to do face-to-face learning and whether he wants to preserve his online environment and his online training and sending out kits. Now, I would suggest in his case, he's going to do both so that he can grow his business. But the impact of COVID-19 and people being restricted for him have been really, really significant in the way he's been able to change and think about his business. So a key element of trying to think about how you're going to pivot is to think about what your competitors are doing. Take the principles, as we just looked at a moment ago, of lean or design thinking and lean startup thinking. Think about how your business and how you've changed your business over the last 3 months or 4 months, and then starting to say, where are we going to move to in the future? So to be able to make sure we're going in the right direction, I think what we need to do is look at what our competitors are doing. Some of our competitors are responding with quite a lot of energy, new dynamics in the way they're thinking, and yet others have done nothing. Some have closed their businesses due to restrictions when they potentially could have been open the whole time, or others have been very quiet. So it's now time to do a competitor analysis, and we'll just look at an example. So the first thing to do is make sure you determine what factors you're going to evaluate a competitor on. And we've just picked up 4 categories here, and we're going to look at an example of a small residential builder. So how does he stand for value for money? What's the quality of design and build? What's his brand and reputation like? And does he have an online delivery capacity? We then sit down and say, well, if those 4 factors are key to the business, then we say, which one's the most important? And he determined in this case, the value for money was the relevant item. And we actually did this exercise just last Friday. He then thought quality of design and build and brand reputation were really important, but of less degree was on-time delivery. And that was partly because the on-time delivery component is affected by the ability to get resources. So in doing an evaluation, once you've decided your weighting, and those things must add up to 100 points, once you've done that weighting, you then got to say, how do we rate everybody? Well, the best way to do this is to say we're half of whatever that weighting score is. So we're 50%. So that way, if somebody's better than us, we can give them a higher score. But if they're worse than us, we can give them a lower score. Then what you've got to do is you've got to identify a competitor. So the first competitor we looked at last Friday, this is the way we rated them. They were more expensive than us, so they got 10 points. The quality of their build and design was also much poorer than ours. They're very fast, get in, do it, get out. They don't have control over their contractors. They take whoever's out there, and so there's an inconsistency. They do a lot of marketing, and so they have quite a strong brand recognition and reputation because they've got a reputation for being out there in your face so much, but perhaps not the same quality as our clients. And then the final thing was that because they were relying on subcontractors all the time, their ability to coordinate and do things on time was much poorer than us, and so we rated them at 30. We then looked at the next competitor, and these were the scores we gave them. We found them pretty good value for money. Quality of the design and building was better than ours because they actually had an in-house designer and a very close relationship with an architect. Their brand reputation is very good. They've made good quality homes. However, their on-time delivery is very poor because they're very slow. They're very deliberate. It seems that because you're working with architects and the design team, in-house design team, it seems to just take so much longer. So the feedback is that they're much slower in their delivery. The next competitor we looked at, we rated them. They also they were better value for money than us. They're a bit cheaper than us, but poorer in quality, poorer in reputation, and about equal to us in delivery. And our final competitor was much better than us. They were cheaper. They seemed to have a bigger team, and they were more consistent. So they were better at their quality and design, and they did have an in-house design capacity. They're very good with their marketing. They have very nice glossy magazines, etc. But once again, they got lots of projects on, and they tend not to be so good with the time delivery. Now, from this, we were able to design and come up with some strategies. Now, we've tweaked these so that they're not real from the actions we took the other day, but this is what we came up with, something similar to this. So because we had two of our competitors who were cheaper than us, what we decided that we needed to do was come up with some special offers and delayed payment options. That way we could take those competitors on. In relation to the quality of design and building, we've actually decided that there are some elements that we are quite good at and have better ideas around because we've done lots of them. One of them being home gyms, another one was study. They also do a lot of bathroom renovations. Because of the renovation side, they had a much better idea of the different changes and trends in what goes on in bathrooms. So we know how to change the innovation in our design, and particularly gives us an opportunity to compete against competitor D. Then in brand reputation, what we've decided, particularly looking at customer D, they have lots of testimonials sitting on there, case studies of what was done. We tend not to tell our story, and certainly customer B's website is full of customer jobs, job tracking, so people could see what was actually going on site. So we've decided that what we'd like to do is build a whole heap of new videos around custom design. And the last one, on-time delivery. Actually, my clients actually adopted Trello, and that's a way of rostering the system and bringing customers on board through the process of how they're going to deliver the project, and a way of him keeping up to date with what's going on every site, on every day, so he knows exactly what's happening. His work crew, because they use Trello as a way of tracking the progress and ordering materials, he knows exactly what's going on and the way to make the business plan. So I think by looking at what your competitor's doing and doing an exercise like this simple decision matrix or competitor analysis matrix, you have the opportunity of thinking about the strategies that you need to change for your business so that you can adapt. And in a case that we spent last Friday with my client, this was a really, really helpful tool because we actually identified some opportunity, and in actual fact, we identified that there was actually some key staff too that we could pick up from one of those competitors because we knew that their staff were dissatisfied with some of the work practices in that business. So really interesting methodology. So watch and listen to what your competitors are doing, see how you can react, think about the lean management design thinking concepts that we talked about and how you might be able to adapt those to help you design your business. The next product, next tool that we find really helpful, and I've done a lot of this in the last couple of weeks, is thinking about how we might surround our product with services that actually satisfy our customers. Now, the example we're going to use here is a small restaurant business. Now, I've done it with a restaurant. I've done it with the builder. We did this as the builder last week. We did this exercise as well. I've done it with a transport company. I've done it with a manufacturer. And I've done it with a service company as well. And it's an absolutely fantastic exercise to help you think about what's going on in the head of your customers and a way of actually adapting your business. So lots of people, to stay active when their businesses are closed down, came up with lots of great ideas of how to keep in contact with their clients. And so they started thinking about how they can solve problems that the clients were facing during this COVID-19 restriction period. Now that the restrictions are lifting, are those issues that they try to respond to the same ones now? So it's an exercise that you can keep redoing, particularly as COVID-19 restrictions change. The first thing that's really important is in the center of your circle is what you do. This is a small restaurant business. So it serves cafe, it serves coffees. It does morning breakfasts, it does lunches, it does dinners, it does takeaway. They're the things that it does. So how can a restaurant think differently about what it needs to do, or any business need to do to service its customers? The way to do that is to ask yourself, what are the problems and the needs for the restaurant in the next 3 to 6 months? So what's going on for the customer that's going to stop them coming to us, and what's going to affect the way we can service the customer? This is similar to what we actually did with one of my clients. We identified the customers are nervous. They don't want to get COVID-19. They don't want to be sitting too close to people, yet they still wanted to go out and be in a friendly environment, in a social area. They still wanted to get out of their house. They've been restricted for too long. Customers were tired of cooking each night, and so they wanted to have a break from the cooking. They needed to make sure they maintained their social distancing, and we needed to retain key staff. And our chefs in this particular case were really critical, and our manager, and due to JobKeeper, we were able to keep lots of our long-term staff who were actually have a connection with the customers as well. So they're the problems. So the idea is, what problems does the business face? What do our customers need? Let's think about those. The next element to do is then think about, what do we need to surround our business with to make sure that we can actually meet the needs of our customers. And in actual fact, one of my clients has done just about everything on this list, plus a lot more. So first of all, they engage with their customers with an online delivery offering. So they actually made up meal packs so people could pick up meals and cook it at home. So they had all the ingredients with the recipe, plus an online video so you could watch to see how to make the food that they've actually prepared for you. Or you could pick up a pre-cooked meal off their restaurant menu, and they changed those menus relatively frequently over the 3 months so that people could have an increased variety as well. They've promoted very heavily through their website and their social media environments their rules around what's required when you come to the restaurant, how you could even order a coffee or pick up a meal, what was required in regards to safe distancing, service delivery, etc. Now that restrictions are lifting, they're setting a 1 hour restriction in time in sitting in the restaurant. And people are actually saying that's a really good idea. This is feedback coming back from the customers. We don't want people sitting around too long, particularly if they're coughing, but they just didn't want to be surrounded by people who were coughing or potentially being there too long. So they wanted to see that there was a rotation. The other thing is they set up a new menu which suited faster service. So some of their traditional dishes, which they take a long time to prepare, they've changed some of those so that they can be responsive, give variety, but make it quick and easy to get things out to the customer, as well as things making things going. And the other thing, of course, they've done a lot of social media. Their social media has really been the link for them to retaining their customers. So this process of thinking about how you can surround the service that you're offering, and perhaps none of those ideas that we've surrounded this particular business with are particularly innovative or different, but what's been different has been the intensity at which the business has actually applied it, the number of contacts they've made with their customers. They've actually grown, in one of my clients' case, they've actually grown the number of friends they have on Facebook. Their Instagram following is almost doubled. I think their friend listing were up 300. Their videos and YouTube downloads went from about 10 a month now to over 150 a month. So they've seen really quite significant difference, which is converted to cash through this time period. So lots of opportunity there for people to see a way of growing their business. And it's also a great way for people to think about, how do I need to pivot my business to meet further changes as restrictions are lifting? The other thing that came out of this exercise is that because of our social media engagement and people in our local community are understanding, and the local residents understanding what's being offered, we've picked up a whole new sector of local customers who are very close to the restaurant who never thought about coming there because we were local. So there's lots of different things that this model can actually allow you to achieve. So the next aspect is 5 further things that you can consider that you need in moving forward with your business. What strategies stick and align with your vision moving forward? So clearly for some businesses, they've done things that have helped keep them alive, help keep people employed under the Job Keeper program, but they're not part of their business model because the competitors who didn't react in the same way may be back in the market and can provide the services cheaper and at a larger capacity than what they are. So what they've done in terms of adapting during the restricted period may no longer stick with their business. It's not their core business. It was just an opportunity. And a good example of that is making disinfectant, for example. We've got 2 clients who've gone out and created a disinfectant range. Disinfectant, of course, is being used extensively by every business. But when restrictions ease, in the end, that market will fall away. 1, 2, the big players in that market will take over with it and be more dominant in their supply, and the price will come down. So that's not a stickable product range for those 2 customers to maintain in the long term. However, it was critical for the cash flow that they had right now. Equally, some clients have identified what is working and was a new strategy. For example, the adoption of a new app added to their service offering. I can think of restaurants. There are a number of apps where you can order your coffee or your meal online, where once you sign up to that app is only offered to your business in your region. So anybody who uses that app and finds you online through the app gets directed straight to your business. So those businesses never had an app before. The app is being used, people ordered online, they paid online, and now that is something that's going to work and stick with them in future, and has actually improved the efficiency of their business. So it was an adaptation, it will stick, and it certainly aligns to their vision of being a restaurant and providing a better takeaway service. So the app worked. In one case, what's happened is we've found that the online capacity through the app and people ordering through the website didn't work with the point of sale system. So that business is now actually changing their point of sale to figure out what else they can try so they can lift the efficiency of their business. The other thing that one of our clients has recognised, which is not working, is, for example, delivery. The cost of delivery, the time taken to delivery, is just something that, whilst it was a service they've offered to customers to try and keep business going, in the long term, that's not a sustainable part of their business. So that's something that's not working. So what's working in your business and what's not working? What can you learn from other businesses in your industry, your competitors, like we just talked about with the competitor analysis? What's best practice and what innovation is actually coming into your industry? So I think looking over the fence and seeing what other businesses are doing is a great way for you to think about what you might be able to adopt into your business and into your business model. Certainly one of the things that I find really interesting in my role in coaching businesses and leading them in strategy discussion is that I often see things that work in one industry that is not being applied in another industry, and be able to take a principle out of one business and transfer it across is a really effective way for people to identify a differentiation for their industry and for their business. So looking at what other people are doing, and certainly looking at what the best competitors in your business environment are doing, is a really good way of figuring out what you need to do as well. I'm aware in comparing certain businesses that they've dropped non-performing business product lines out of their business and taken on new items of product that can be digitally controlled, whereas the old product was more manually controlled. And that's such an example of that is home air conditioning. Being able to program your air conditioning, turning the heaters on before you get home, or the cooling system, by using an app rather than having to wait to come in and punching the dial on the wall and then waiting for your house to change. I know one business who's completely changed their whole service delivery. They've taken away the manual option and then moved to a digital environment. And they learned that by looking at what was going on outside their district in a larger metropolitan area, but they saw that as best practice, and they were looking at what their competitors were doing, and it gave them a real opportunity. The other thing interesting about that competitor analysis, with one of the clients we recently did the competitor analysis with, we identified a competitor to purchase. Through the competitor analysis and looking at what the best competitors are doing can actually drive your strategy. And if some of the other competitors aren't doing so well, may also drive you an acquisition strategy as well. And then the next thing is, what do I need to do in my role? A lot of business leaders have been under a lot of pressure and have had to respond quite differently. They've got away from customer service. They've spent a lot more time managing their staff. They've spent a lot more time looking at products, non-performing product lines, spent time actually talking to customers, not about the products they're going to sell them, but about how they might service them or what their future needs are so that they could adapt. So what has to change in your role as a result of COVID-19? I'm aware of a couple of business leaders who've realised that their technical skills in some of the digital marketing and platforms has to change. And so they're now actively leading their social media profile of their business because they know the stories to tell which the customers relate to. So they've taken on social media and marketing, where 4 months ago that would have been the last thing in the world they thought about. So what do you need to do and adapt in your role so that you can move forward? So these are key questions that go along as part of we move through this pivot and adapt stage of our business. Have you got an app that you've been working with, or an app that you could bring into your business that for a transactional fee gives you an ability to compete with a competitor who may be much larger? Certainly more customers are buying online now. They order online, they still want to come into the stores and potentially check it out, but having an online purchase function on your website is now becoming almost a must-have for just about anybody who's in a retail or product delivery model. So think about, how can I change my role and what do I need to do to move going forward? So what we've been able to do also through this period is that our business has changed because we now have the capacity to offer a greater range of online business coaching tools, and we're going to add a range of financial management tools online for our clients. And one of them is a new course through our alliance with Mindshop Online on being able to give people access to online business tools, an online coaching platform, and online courses. And a new course that's just come out is about pivoting and adapting. So there's a pivot and adapt course, and its modules are: where are you now? Competitor analysis, which we've just talked about. Product portfolio analysis. So which products can we convert, or services or product service mix can we convert into a cash cow? Do we need to create a new product range that gives us opportunity in the future? Is there some what we call dogs. Is there some products that we need to move out of our system? So that's what product portfolio analysis is. Product surround, then looking at some growth strategies, doing a SWOT, blank canvas thinking. This is a what if, what about. It's a really fantastic tool to get you to start thinking outside the square again. Then looking at your change success model. Have you got all the areas needed to make change successful in your business? And then developing a one-page plan. To support that, there is quite a number of products which you actually see as well. Out of that course, you will see product portfolio, product surround. If I go forward, those are supported with videos on how to do them, with templates which you can watch, and so that you can do this with your team. And there's pretty much the 5 of the products which we just talked about before. How to do a SWOT, how to do product surround, the one-page plan, the product portfolio analysis, and the competitor analysis, which we did earlier in this presentation. So our business is learning to adapt just like everybody else in the marketplace, and we're able to offer this product range to our customers so that you can use these tools on your business on a regular basis and involve your staff in the process of you designing the strategies needed for your business as you need to pivot and adapt. And staff involvement's a really critical element of making sure you can regain their engagement in the process of having to change your business. And that helps remove any concerns that people might have. Actions for today, I would encourage you to do a competitor analysis. Be really clear of what your competitors are doing. Are you responding? How can you differentiate? Think about the product surround process so that you can redefine your business so it's different to your competitors, but meet the needs of your customers. And customers' needs have certainly changed as a result of COVID-19. More and more people want services online. They want to do their research online. They still may want to come in and see you. They still need to come in and physically touch the product or get your services direct. But if you can help them get access to you through an online environment, then that's, I think, a really positive way of doing things. Hopefully we've given you some ideas about how you might pivot and adapt your business. I think the pivot and adapt phase is going to be around for another 3 to 6 months. I think everybody's concerned about whether there will be a second wave. Till such time as we've had a fairly significant long period of very low or no transmissions, will we see restrictions lifted. Certainly if you look at New Zealand, no cases for 4 weeks. They've now decided they can lift the barriers and remove all internal restrictions inside New Zealand. I think Australia's a long way away from that at this stage. And then at some stage, our international borders have got to open up as well. And that raises a whole new kettle of fish. And so I think we're going to be in this wax and wane phase for some time. But at the moment, pivot and adapt. Think about the design thinking model, test things. There's no wrong thing you can do here this time. Customers are looking for differences. They're certainly looking for ways to connect with you and your business. So make sure you think about how you can make it easier for them to deal with you. So hopefully today's been helpful. Our next workshop will be on the 6th of July, and we'll be starting at 12:30 to 1:30. I hope today's been helpful.